man who needs no introduction. Please welcome Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was the executive producer and narrator of the project. Let's talk to Natalie Anderson, who was the lead illustrator and designer. Beautiful work. And director and executive producer, Edward Jesse. So when I cover technology, I always am fascinated, not by the technology itself, by what it can do and how it can forward the creative process. And this is just such a perfect example of it. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this. For starters, let's give everyone a window into that writer's room that you had at the Consumer Electronics. Who was where, how many people were on it, how many days did it? Give us a little bit of an idea of what it was like to be a part of that.
Sure. So it was, I was in one place in LA. Edward and Toph, who you saw in there, who couldn't make it today, was in another room in LA. Then it was happening at the same time as CES, where the whole Canon team was. So there were all these people coming into these AMLOS booths at CES. And then there was just people all over the world that were also kind of tuning into the stream. So it was a big smorgasbord of collaboration.
When I saw the names at the end, my gosh, there was a lot of people involved. And how many days did it go on? And what was for you as a director, what was the experience like?
So it went over the course of CES. We did 3 days, and each day we did 3 sessions. So that was, a different group of people in the Vegas writers' room each session, and then every session had a different group of people online who were, contributing ideas and feedback through a sort of chat feed. So that was fun, really. I mean, different. It's we've done with HitRecord, I've done collaboration before with lots of people, but we've never done it live. And so that was kind of, a fun challenge. And as Kohei said, we didn't know how it was going to work out. And it turned out great. I mean, there are a lot of ideas coming in, and you're talking to people who aren't used to maybe being in writers' rooms, certainly, or even people who wouldn't consider themselves artists or creative. But you quickly realize that as soon as people are given that opportunity, they sort of really get into it and embrace it. And they were great. And the people in Vegas were great. And they had great ideas. And it was easier than it could have been, let's say. Yeah.
Well, going into the process, this particular step in the process, what did you have a seed of an idea or a theme, or what did you start with?
We had an idea. We sort of thought we had some themes that we thought might be fun to explore. Collaboration, obviously, because of the nature of the experiment. The ideas around creativity, and we had some sort of prompt questions for each session that we knew we wanted to use to sort of get the conversation going. But really, that's all we had, and we tried to react to what people were finding interesting, and sort of that conversation sort of led us to explore all sorts of different, topics. We ended up talking about way too much stuff, which is always the case, but great stuff that you'd never get if you were, in a writer's room with hired writers, because everyone's bringing their own perspective or stories or, some sort of opinion or idea that, you couldn't write. It's organic to them and their personal experience. So we had a ton of ideas, and then really the challenge was sort of figuring out, okay, which of these ideas are we going to try and fit together into some sort of recognizable story.
And what was the AMLOS system like to use? Because it looked all very Minority Report.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, so I had a slightly different experience than Joe and Natalie did, because Toph and I were in the room with the AMLOS camera. So we got to do the Minority Report stuff, and it was fun.
And then from my point of view, it's just that I'm somewhere remote, and I want to be able to easily see something that they're drawing or something that he's writing on the whiteboard, and it just made it kind of fluid. And when you eliminate friction, when you make the creative process more fluid, then the creativity obviously flows more easily and more ideas come, and it's just more fun. And when you're having more fun, then you make something that's more fun for people to watch. So it sort of just kind of seamlessly and easily made it that much more fluid and fun to work together.
And it looked like you were all having fun on the video.
Yeah.
So it came across. It definitely did.
Well, I think it speaks to a larger reason why I really love this partnership. And you got a taste of it a second ago when Kohei got up here and talked. This is the inventor of a camera. He's a film buff. This is a guy who, I mean, how I don't know how many product launches for an electronic device reference the Lumiere brothers. Like I love this about this partnership, and you can really see it evidenced in what they've made. Not all advancements in technology are coming from that place for a real love of the art. And you can see throughout history that technology, when it advances, it always has huge impacts on the creative process. And there is kind of, I think, no art without the tech, whether it's like rudimentary tech, like the written word, or the invention of the printing press, etc., or new digital tech, cutting edge today. But those technologists don't always have a genuine love and appreciation for the art itself. And Kohei really, really does. And I from the beginning of this partnership, it always really stood out to me. And you can feel it in the product when you use it. It's like, oh, this was clearly crafted by someone who's coming from a place of love for the art itself. And so it's been a real pleasure in that sense.
And who also knows what creatives need in order to get their thoughts on through to to everyone quickly. Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that from the design standpoint?
From the design standpoint, it was great to be able to see all the visual assets really quickly, and be able to zoom in on them, seeing what Toph and Edward had made in that room, and then experiencing all of the stuff that was coming in on the chat, and then also at the event itself. It was great to see all of that together, and then be able to reference those high-res images, and then also get the energy as well. I think that the energy of the event was really important to feel. Okay, I latched onto some other people's thoughts as I was. It was some things caught Toph's and Edward's. They were excited about some certain aspects, and I saw other pieces, and together it just came all together, and it was really exciting to be able to get all that information quickly together.
It's particularly cool, I think, for visual artists, and it was a writer's room in that we were brainstorming ideas, but the way that we tend to work, and when we get to work with really talented illustrators and designers like Natalie, is when you're world building or when you're creating story, you're doing that hand in hand with a lot of visual work, and that's something that we work with Natalie on it as well, but Toph and I, on our project Wolf Point Everything Factory, was an animated show we made entirely during COVID, during lockdown, and we weren't in the same space. And so that, when you're sharing visuals, especially when you're sharing visual ideas, storyboards, character designs, that's very difficult to do on a normal video chat, in any sort of seamless way. And I think that was what, the AMLOS really opened that up, being able to use the physical space, being able to pin stuff on the board, and share visual designs on the fly is really rare. That was something that's very difficult to do without the AMLOS tech.
Especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, actually, that was something I really wanted to talk about, was during the pandemic, because we've all had obstacles in communication and collaboration during this time. What were some of the aspects of this system that that really enabled you to get past some of those barriers that we've had the last few years?
Yeah, well, it was the fact that we were all in different places, and that's relevant during a pandemic for sure. But I think we're probably not going back exactly. I think there are some real upsides to people being able to work together from lots of different places, and of course there's upsides to being in the same physical space. But this technology kind of allowed us to get that much closer to the best of both worlds, of feeling more like we were in the same physical space, even though we weren't.
And then, I mean, you use this for multiple days. As each day went by, I assume you picked up new things or you were able to do things faster. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of.
I definitely feel like I'm an AMLOS champion now after using it for a little bit. It is. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It does take, because it's very new, so I've mentioned Minority Report. It does feel like it's sort of it takes a second to get used to, but you pick it up pretty quick, and then it becomes
Like any tool.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes pretty second nature, by day. By the second and third sessions on day one, we were really getting used to it, and by day three, you weren't really thinking about it anymore, which is exactly what you want for when you talk about the intersection of technology and creativity. There's technology can push creativity forward and can be really influential. At the same time, when you're being creative, you almost don't want to think about the technology at all. You don't want it to get in the way. You don't want to be conscious of it. And so that if that's really when technology becomes the most useful, that you don't have to worry about it and you can just focus on collaborating or bouncing ideas around or whatever it is.
For those when you were remote, what did you actually have to have within your home or office or wherever you were working?
Well,
I was just on a computer.
Yeah, you guys, I think, would just had the browser or the interface, which the AMLOS interface on their end allows them to sort of choose what they're looking at. So there's multiple different things you can look at in the room, and pick whether are you looking at me as I blabber on, or are you looking at the thing that I've just posted on the wall, or are you looking at my screen where I've just typed something. Or
any of these different places on the whiteboard that you've written all kinds of things.
Yeah, and then for Toph and I, we had the AMLOS camera set up in our room, so that sort of gave everybody who was tuning in the ability to kind of feel like they were in that room, if the sort of hub room.
Could you give us an example? Just tell us about one day, one session, one aspect of the story that you needed to unlock and how you solved it.
Well, excuse me. Well, there was one day where we were just looking at a wide variety of drawings and trying to pick, okay, who's going to be the protagonist, and Toph had drawn a bunch of options, Natalie had drawn a bunch of options, and we had a whole bunch of drawings to look at, and we wanted to just get feedback on all of them, and they had drawn them with a pen and paper, and just posted them up on the wall. So I'm not much of an illustrator, but it's nice to actually be able to draw on paper, and so with the system it made it really easy. They could just because I was not in the room where they had posted the drawings up on the wall, and they could just very easily, without moving the camera or anything, just using the system digitally, show all these different drawings in detail that were up on the wall.
Yeah, one of the fun creative things we were doing on that day was asking people in Vegas and around the world, like, does this character look like a hero or a villain to you? Which is a great sort of opening way of getting someone who isn't used to expressing themselves to talk about something, and so that was great. But it also kind of, that debate that was happening among everyone at CES and online sort of transformed into the idea that the hero would be not a villain, but be like someone who haunts the forest, like a stereotypical bad guy, if that makes sense, a hero that looks like a villain. So that became a huge, big story point that really came from that process that we were having with people.
Cute but dark.
And who were the other artists and collaborators that you had on this session? How did you find them?
Yeah, so the other half, it was fun. The collaborative nature of the CES sessions itself was great fun. The other really fun thing was then we had 3-4 weeks to create the short film.
Get to work.
Which is, if you're familiar with animation, is a challenge, but a fun challenge, and it meant we got to work with, so Toph, my co-director and co-creator, Natalie, who we'd worked with on Wolf Boy, Rebecca, was our editor. We had 3 animators, Jane, Joe, and Hayden, and Jeff, who did music for us, and that was it. And so we had, it felt very indie and felt very fun and felt like all hands on, and that's fun because you don't usually get to do that. So that was a fun experience. I don't know if Natalie would agree with me. Maybe Natalie drew all of the backgrounds, so she might not have had as much fun.
No, it was great. It's always great working with you and Toph, but seriously. But no, yeah, it was great to be able to jump back into, Toph and Edward and also Joe. You make wonderful worlds, and you really bring in, great writing to jump off of and to create something magical. And I think I was like so excited to get back in and just draw some like really fun and like traditional looking backgrounds for this really sweet short film. And so the more, at the live event, I was understanding, where this story was going to go and what these characters were going to look like. I was more and more excited. And then when we just started to go, I was like, had all these great ideas and pitched a bunch of stuff. And we kind of, worked on it from there.
And just to restate, animation can take a very long time. I mean, the schedule you're talking about is a breakneck pace for animation.
That is correct, yes.
So did you sleep?
Yeah, a little bit, sure. It's when you're doing that kind of indie production is takes a lot of passion and excitement to do it, but that's why you do it. It's really fun when you get to make something ambitious with a small amount of people, I think, because you get to, it's really all hands on deck, and everyone's doing little bits and pieces that they wouldn't maybe normally get to do on a bigger production, right? And
also so much more special, I think, because you're directly talking with each part of the animation pipeline, and it was really intimate. And on Wolf Boy and the Everything Factory, there are some people that I wasn't able to talk to. I wasn't able to, form a relationship with. And it was really nice to, be in a Slack chat with just a couple of people and like getting excited about this, here's this shot here and look at this, I tried this. Rebecca was earlier talking about how she made a cool long pano shot for all of the little bug, star dots that are all around. I was like, that's so brilliant. So Rebecca too, great. And it's exciting to be part of a small project like that, even though it's really fast.
So looking ahead on this, what are the opportunities that you see? How do you plan to use it for future productions and projects?
I would do this again. I mean, when there's visual art or when there's whiteboard sessions, I don't see why not. This is better than it was before, so I would do it again.
I worked on Wolf Boy and the Everything Factory, and it was all virtual, and it was my first animation big studio project, and I only got to really interact with other artists on Zoom or on Slack. And I wish I had been, able to see some of the writers' rooms. Writers' rooms are more like storyboarding rooms where you're just throwing out design ideas. And, if there were some people in the room that were like, this is awesome, look at this, yeah, see it close. That energy is really important to creative work, I think. Bouncing off ideas with friends, people who you feel suddenly are your friends, not just a small screen where you're just showing this, or you're like just showing the screen grab or whatever. It's so much more interactive, and I think that's the part that I miss the most about my first big job on a big studio project. It was I was bummed that I wasn't able to be in studio with everyone. So AMLOS really gave us the opportunity to kind of feel that again, but also, you know, we had the in-person stuff, we worked together, we worked remote. It was a great hybrid of both to keep the energy up and creative juices flowing.
Was the setup, tell us a little about the setup. Was it fairly straightforward or?
It was straightforward for us because the nice people at Canon came to set it up. But it looked very neat to me. It didn't seem like there was a lot of hassles that they were having. No, but I mean, but it is a very neat piece of kit. I mean, and you know, when we first started talking to Kohei and the team at Canon, when they were talking about what the thing could do, I was envisaging some sort of multi-camera setup, you know, with a scanning the room and stuff like that. And it's a very neat thing. It just sat in the corner, fairly, you know, unobtrusive. And that I think is pretty amazing for how detailed it can be, and how, you know, it's tracking you around the room. It's tracking multiple things that you're looking at. It's taking photos of multiple things at the same time. So for the capability, I was very surprised at how compact it was and how neat it was. And yeah.
We, in this conversation, and you know, often we hear, you know, technology, art, but I have to say, in this case, I think this system and Kohei and everyone at Canon, this really is a situation where the technology development really was very creative. You are creative, and I know that the team that develops these systems, you are artists, so well done. And Joe, I know that technology in service of story and in service of creativity is something that you're very passionate. Do you want to just talk a little bit more in broad strokes about where you see it going, both this system or anything related?
In broad strokes, geez, sure. Well, you know, technology, and as it progresses, is always sort of a double-edged sword, right? It can be positively impactful, it can be negatively impactful, and it's always sort of up to the human beings using it to decide which. And to be honest, and not to be pessimistic, but there is a lot about the technological landscape of today that concerns me, that makes me worried for the state of our artistry and creative culture and what it means to be an artist today. I don't know that all technology companies out there really have the best interest of artists at heart. And as I said before, that is a big part of what made this feel so good. Because it really felt like this is a piece of tech that's clearly got artists in mind, is not trying to exploit artists or displace artists, but just help and assist the human creative process. It's making it actually easier for an artist to draw something on a pen and paper, tape it to the wall, and show somebody else across the world. That's the kind of advancements that I'd love to see technology making, and I think that's well within our power, that as tech grows more and more powerful, it can help humans become more and more expressive and sort of self-actualizing and creative. And that's the path we need to keep our eye on, as opposed to the other one, where as technology grows more and more powerful, humans grow sort of more and more sedate and passive and manipulated and exploited. And it's going to be a photo finish, folks, and it's happening right now. You know, so the more that we can champion this, you know, kind of pro-human and pro-artist technology, the better.
Jumping off of what Joe said, just a pro-creative life, experience with being able to collaborate with others, feeling like you're in the room with those people, you know, writing things on the wall and getting those ideas out fast. It's so important to be able to share your ideas quickly, tell everyone else what you want to say, and it's just even like little doodles will help create so much more imagination and excitement among a team. And I think that that's really exciting in a time when you're pretty much only at home. Maybe we're going hybrid. A bunch of animation studios, we're all kind of not sure yet. Things are very in limbo, and so to have technology that's going to create an opening for people to choose to be at home if they need to, because sometimes just living a creative life, you need the creative fuel, and sometimes that fuel is being at home, being able to go traveling when you need to, living a virtual lifestyle. If that works for you, having more options is so important for a creative person. And this is really, I think, new tech that can facilitate a better creative life.
I agree with all of that. I just wanted to pick up on thanking Koei and Canon. I think it's absolutely right that it was clearly designed by artists. They're all artists themselves, but I think also just their willingness to sort of go on this experimental journey with us was kind of amazing, because they were like, so we want you to make a short film. What's it going to be like? And we're like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? The whole point is that this was sort of unexpected and a journey into the unknown for them. So that, I think, Canon were incredibly supportive of that and had great input, and you feel that as a creative person. So that's thanks to Koei and to Canon and for supporting that kind of collaboration. It's cool.
No, the CES was in January. So when did your team and Canon all start talking about the potential for this project?
When was it? I'm bad at time.
Don't know. I'm looking at Jared here. Yeah, November.
Edward contacted me like on December 25th. No, it was like it was like a couple days after or before or something.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was indie. That's you gotta love it. It was fun.
So we've had this wonderful premiere tonight. Where does it go from here?
Out into the world. Yeah.
And will there be another one soon?
Oh, I hope so. That sounds fun.
What are each of you up to right now or doing next?
Yes, season 2. Thank you for that. Yeah, we should plug that. Season 2 of the show Wolf Boy and the Everything Factory is on Apple TV. That Natalie did character design on, and me and Toph, who co-directed this, created. So please watch that. That's fun. That's what we're doing. What are you doing? Natalie has a lot of very cool things going on in the illustration world. So
I'm doing workshops, and it would be really nice to be able to have AMLOS in the room. So I'm not using my iPad here, my laptop here, and my phone here, trying to get close to this printmaking machine, trying to share. I'm doing my Instagram Live and Twitch streaming, and trying to talk about my creative process with printmaking. And it's a lot. So any way to make that easier is exciting, and that's I'm kind of just doing a lot of my own stuff, and I'm excited to be working on a children's book soon. So lots of random crazy things happening.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's see. I'm going to be in another animated movie, half animated. There's a new version of Pinocchio coming out, and I'm getting to play Jiminy Cricket, which is just a crazy dream come true. And on HitRecord, we're always doing fun little creative things on HitRecord. That's what the community has been doing for many, many years now. It's always been a dear part of my life to get to do art in a sort of a outside of Hollywood way, and do it together with people who have all kinds of ranges of backgrounds and experiences and skill levels. I always find it refreshing. There's always cool little projects and art prompts going on HitRecord. And so if you feel like doing something creative, come on down.
Before we start winding down, is there anything else you'd like to share about the short?
Oh, I think you asked great questions. Can we hear it for our moderator?
And great
please?
answers. And actually, Kohei, maybe you can answer this one. When will the system be available for everyone to use? This summer. Okay. So we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sharing this amazing short with us. I'm so glad we got to see it tonight. And I think we have a little more time to mingle, so if you have any questions, Kohei's here, and many of the Canon team is here as well. And thank you so much for joining and making this a special night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.